Hello and welcome to the Segway MAX G3 range test. I'm gonna start riding here, get it started. I'm tracking my range with the GPS. We are riding in the absolute highest speed mode with the increased top speed of 28 miles an hour. Now, I've heard a lot of things about the range on this scooter. I've heard it's fairly disappointing, and I have put some miles on it since my initial first impressions video. I have 26 on the odometer, so not a crazy amount, but enough to have an idea of what the range is going to be. And my guess is that we're going to be somewhere in that 15 to 20 mile range, riding in this fastest mode. Now, personally, I think that is a pretty decent amount of range at this price. I bought mine on pre-order for $900. I think you can get it for $1,000 right now on Amazon. So relatively, at the $1,000 price point, expecting 15 to 20 miles of minimum range, I don't think is that bad of a range number. Like, I think that's really reasonable to expect that. Keep in mind, I'm talking about minimum range. So if you are lighter than me, I'm 205 pounds about. If you're shorter or skinnier than me, I'm 6'1", you're gonna get better aerodynamics. Therefore, you are going to get better range. You also will get better range by simply riding slower. The max out speed mode is obviously going to drain the battery as quickly as possible. And there's a pretty significant jump up in your range as you decrease your average speed. And so that's also something to keep in mind, that if you're someone who's buying this and is only gonna use the 28 mile an hour mode for when you're riding recreationally, and most of the time, you know, you're riding to work or school or whatever, and you've got, you know, a simple half helmet on so you don't have to wear a full face, and you're content just going 20 miles an hour, that will give you a lot of extra range. Now, what's going to be interesting to me is to see at what point is the scooter gonna start dropping off in top speed. Because I did notice as I got deeper into the discharge of the battery on other rides that the top speed went down, and that's normal. As the voltage goes down, typically you lose a bit of speed and acceleration. That's especially true with like 36 volt and 48 volt electric scooters. Typically once you get to 52 and 60, you see a lot less of that fall off in power as you go throughout the battery. But this is a 48 volt scooter, so you are gonna naturally see some of that fall off. The thing that I'm not sure of is how much of that is natural fall off and how much of that is the scooter intentionally limiting your power so that you get further range naturally. Segway talked a lot about their SegRide features and like the SegRide technology that allows you to get extended range. And what that might just mean is that, oh, when you get to 50%, we limit your speed by a couple miles an hour. And then as you drain more and more, they limit your speed more and more and more. And I suspect that is the case, that there's voltage fall off and then there's also intentional speed decrease by Segway itself. So something while we're taking off here that I do want to note is that the acceleration on this, I really, really wish that there was a way to adjust the acceleration, because the built-in acceleration is very, very tame. So much so that it feels like there's a delay, like it slowly ramps up and then starts to go, and you don't see it really kick in until like 10 miles an hour, which is disappointing because there's clearly a lot of power with this scooter. There's clearly plenty of power, and I don't know if that acceleration, like the slow acceleration, is because they're trying to extend the range, or if that is, thanks. If that is because, okay, here we go. Here's the trail I was trying to get. I wasn't just riding on the left side for no reason. But what I was saying is that I don't know if that's intentional by Segway to help increase the range, or if that's like trying to like a safety measure. But the only way I found that you can increase that top speed or that acceleration is through the boost mode. And it seems like they only let you do the boost mode like once. And I don't know if there's some requirement that I'm not meeting, and that's why it won't let me do the boost mode multiple times. But it won't just let you keep like the boost acceleration setting on. I wish there was a middle ground where you didn't have to have the boost acceleration, but you could have like just a slightly more punchy acceleration, so you weren't like getting on the scooter. And I'll show you real quick. So it's on 0 start. I press, and then it goes like excruciatingly slowly, and then boom, it kicks in and takes off, and you're like, okay, this does have power. This has plenty of power. So I know I did touch on that during my initial impressions, but it is kind of the biggest thing that's been noticeable as I've been riding and testing this. But aside from that, I get genuine enjoyment out of how quick this scooter is. You know, I've ridden plenty of fast scooters, like plenty of really fast scooters. No, I've gone 65 miles an hour on an electric scooter before, and this is still enough power for me to, like, when I ride, go out and have a genuinely really fun time. So I don't think it's lacking performance at all. It's just the acceleration that I just wish was just a little bit punchier. This is actually a trail where I crashed, I think on that exact bump. I was riding a scooter that similar speed to this one, but didn't have any suspension. And that is somewhere where the scooter's been fantastic. I also, in my initial impressions, incorrectly said that this has the same wheels as the Max G2. These are 11-inch wheels, and that also explains why I definitely feel like this is a much more plush ride than the G2. You know, it's not ridiculously better, but it's noticeably better. Another thing that I got a lot of questions about in my first impressions was, oh, I have the Max G2, should I upgrade to the Max G3? And, you know, the answer to that is obviously going to be, it depends. The things that this does do better than the Max G2 are obviously the increased top speed, which is going to be significant enough from the G2 that if you ride the G2 and you really like it and you're considering an upgrade and you feel like the G2 is a little bit too slow for you, like you'd like a little bit more speed, then it's probably worth doing. You know, they kept the price really great on this scooter. And so it's not like, it's not a giant commitment in terms of money, but it is a pretty significant leap up in performance. The other thing is like I mentioned, you definitely get a bit of a cushier ride. I think you notice it the most over stuff like this sidewalk, where it just seems to effortlessly eat up these like smaller bumps. The hydraulic suspension honestly has a very similar feel. I don't think that they've made any significant changes to it. And then obviously you get a few of the new features. You know, you get the new display, you get more control in the app, and you kind of got to decide if that is something, you know, that is valuable to you, or if those are just like a few small little bonuses. But I think that you should only upgrade from the Max G2 to this one if you really want the increased top speed and you would like to stick with Segway. Like you feel like Segway's earned your business with the Max G2. Now, if you're riding an original Segway Max or a G30P or whatever, I think that this is a huge upgrade over that one in terms of ride quality and ride comfort. I think you will be blown away at how much smoother this scooter rides over the original Max models. This is really, you know, getting into performance territory. Whereas the original Segway Max was very much a commuter scooter, like a big battery commuter scooter. It had no intention of being what this has turned into, being a 28 mile an hour, almost sport scooter. I definitely think that the decisions they made when going from the G2 to the G3 were made intentionally to target people who had previously bought the G2. You know, they increased the top speed. I mean, it's the speed increase is the big thing that I think they were banking on drawing people in. You know, it's like the power creep. They want to keep getting repeat customers buying the new generation of the model. So in order to do that, they, instead of just improving it and keeping the specs the same, they have to keep, you know, bumping up the performance on it to incentivize those people to purchase. And I'm going to be looking at the F3. It just arrived the other day, and that scooter has kind of become what the Max G2 used to be. Okay, so I am just going to cruise for a little bit, and I will check in at some of the range milestones. I'll check in at 50% and then 25% and give you a little update. Those timestamps will be down below in the description if you want to jump forward to any updates or the range results. Okay, I'm at about half battery here, and we've gone 7.2 miles according to the GPS. That's about on track with what I guessed. That's about on track with 15 miles of range. Now, like I said, there will be some fall off in top speed, and that second half of the battery is, you know, typically lasts a significantly longer time than the first half of the battery. So my guess would be that we could probably get another close to 10 miles out of it. So somewhere in that 16 to 17 mile range, I think would be really good. That's, you know, honestly what I was expecting. It does feel like it's draining really fast because you can see the, you know, the percentages right there, and it does seem like the percentages are pretty accurate. And so, you know, every time you look down, you've lost a percentage, and that does make it feel like it's draining really fast, when in reality, it's just kind of doing more or less what a lot of the other scooters at this price do. Another thing to keep in mind is that I believe this is like 590-ish watt hours, and the Max G2 was 540 watt hours. So you're only getting a 10% increase in battery while getting close to a 25-30% increase in top speed. So just naturally, because of that, you're going to get, you know, lower range. It's just, you know, it's just the math of it. Oh, the other thing is that top speed is now capped at 25, 20, oh, I saw 26 for a second, but we do have a little tiny bit of an incline, but this would have easily gotten all the way up to the top speed before when full. So again, same question. Is that a matter of voltage drop off, or is that Segway and their quote unquote SegRide technology that's interfering with the top speed on this? The fact that you can only get that 28 mile an hour top speed for about half of the battery, that doesn't feel super great to me. Now, once again, I still have not dived super deep into the settings. I suppose there's a non-zero chance that you can go in and tell it to not do this, and that you can just have it maxed out all the time and get whatever range that gives you, but I definitely doubt it. Okay, we are at 20% left in the battery. we've gone about 12-ish miles, and we're seeing another click down in the speed here. It seems to be happening at like pretty definitive intervals, which makes me think that it is like the scooter itself, that's limiting my speed. Things to be limited to 20 here. Let's see. Because I was going 25 miles an hour, and on the downhill, I was even going like 28, 29 miles an hour. And now that it's under 20%, oh, boom, magically, it can only go 20 miles an hour, which, you know, is still plenty of speed if all I cared about was getting where I needed to go. If I care about performance and the recreational side of this, which is the direction that they are leaning with this scooter, then I might be a little bit like, well, what if I only need to ride 1 more mile? Then why would I care about, you know, limiting my speed and extending my range? You can actually feel it limiting the speed now. I had a little bit of a downhill section, and I felt it literally slow the scooter down. So it's definite, it has to be intentional speed limiting by the scooter itself. That's confirmed now. That's got to be confirmed. Listen, I'm okay with that happening if it's something you can turn off in the app. And I don't think it is. I'll cover the app in a lot of depth in my full review, because I'm gonna have to spend some time in there and see what is actually adjustable and what is worth changing. And I just genuinely haven't had the patience to do that yet. But at the very least, we know what happens stock out of the box. All right, we are really dragging now, really getting down to the last 8% left. Seems like we've gone about 13, 14-ish miles. I mean, to me, it's hard to count this range unless all you care about is like trying to get to your destination. And if that's all you care about, then you wouldn't be riding in the highest mode and the highest speed setting anyway. After finishing out the last couple miles of range at an excruciating 10 miles an hour, the scooter hit 0% battery at 16.3 miles. This falls right in line with my initial expectations, so I'm not really that disappointed, but it is more of how it got there that is disappointing to me. I was only able to ride at the highest speed for about half of the battery life, which was like 7 or 8 miles. The slow decline of top speed, which seemed to be due to more than just the natural decrease in voltage, does increase your total range, but it definitely makes for a less than ideal recreational riding experience. Keep in mind that this is the minimum range with a 200-pound, 6'1" rider, and lighter or shorter riders will naturally get better range. Decreasing your top speed or limiting it in the app will also extend your range dramatically, and I think you could easily expect at least 5 more miles of range if you limited your speed to 20 from the get-go. Obviously, it would have been nice to see more minimum range, but for me personally, I don't need much more than that, and even when I didn't own a car, about 15 miles of range was plenty for almost everything I needed to do and everywhere I needed to go. However, I do understand that some people will want more range than this, even if it's just to minimize range anxiety. Segway does have that new additional battery pack option available, though if you're planning on buying a second battery, you could put those hundreds of dollars, as I assume the battery will cost, toward just getting a more expensive scooter with more range and potentially better overall performance. So let me know how you feel about the range numbers down in the comments. Stay tuned for the full review of this scooter coming out after just a bit more testing. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.